back to Iron Rage, the show where John Romano and I vent our frustrations with the world. John is in traffic. He'll be joining us a little later. I have the bad boy of bodybuilding, our good friend, Lee Priest, all the way from Newcastle, Australia. Lee, you got a beautiful backdrop there. It's still summer there, correct?
Yeah, it's still summer. It's a bit overcast today. The last few days have been in the 40s, 45, but yeah, that's Newcastle Harbour there where the big coal ships come in. But yeah, it's a nice day. Actually, I just went for a walk. I've been up. My new time now, Dave, I get up at 4 a.m. I'm in the gym at 5 now, so 4 a.m. is when I get up. So I've been up for a few hours now, 3.5 hours.
Yeah, you don't sleep much. Do you go to bed early or you just don't sleep?
I go to bed about 9 o'clock.
Oh, you do? Okay, so you're early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Is that true with you?
Well, maybe forget the wealthy and wise bit, but healthy. Probably healthy, but the other two, I don't know who made that shit up.
Lee, did you always do cardio when you would compete, or is this a new thing for you?
I've always done cardio, Dave. Don't you read articles about me back in the old days? 2 to 3 hours of cardio a day.
Yeah, but that was just for show contest time. What about year round?
Yeah, I'd walk to McDonald's.
Yeah. So you
walk around the food court in the shopping centre. Yeah, so I'll do a bit of cardio, but the cardio now, it's like here too, where you see where I am now. There's like cafes on. Here's a cafe over there where I was just eating. So I do go walking, but then when I finish walking, I go and have some donuts and coffee and cake. So I don't know if it does any good.
Lee, do you actually have facial hair?
Yeah, I do actually. I can't be bothered shaving at the moment.
You never have facial hair. Very rarely.
Exactly. It's called puberty, Dave. Puberty.
Isn't it? You can't have facial hair if you're getting tattoo removal done, right?
The next tattoo removal is not for a few more weeks yet, but you know, you're lucky. I just went for my walk and I was actually feeling like, you know, my blood sugar was dropping, so I just had some granola and yogurt. So you're actually lucky I'm on the show today. I could have almost been too depleted to come on and talk to you.
Yeah, there's a few people out there that won't do interviews with us if they're too depleted. You know that.
Yeah, that's right. And I listen to your shows very intently now, so if you talk bad about me, I'm going to block your ass.
I'm surprised you haven't blocked us by now.
Fucking wipe you out, man. Fucking hell, I can't go talking shit about people. You can't have opinions, Dave. You're not allowed to have opinions about people or, you know, subject matters that, you know, can upset people.
You know, some people are very sensitive about what you say about them, I guess. That's the only thing I can say.
Well, you should just be happy you're talking about him, for fuck's sake.
That's right. That's right. We're giving relevancy to him. All right, let's talk about today's topic. John should be joining us any minute. The topic is why guys in the 80s and 90s trained harder than the guys today do. Now, I want to preface that by saying there are strongholds of people in certain areas. I think like Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym in New York is a stronghold of a lot of hardcore training there. I'm sure there's other pockets around the country, but by and far, you don't see the training level, you know, that was going on in the 80s and 90s, where it was always like a competition between other bodybuilders who could lift more, who was training harder. You had the Mensa routine, the heavy duty training. You had, you know, everyone had their own little system. Why do you think that is? I have a theory, but I want to hear your theory on it.
Because it fucking hurts, that's why. It hurts and it's hard, and people don't like that. Because I remember I used to train, I've always trained hard, and, you know, I'd train with some people, even if I get ready for a contest and I go super hard and really turn on, but I'd train with guys who, you know, say I train hard, in brackets, but they'd be like, and when you train, they're like, do you train hard like this all the time? I'm like, I'm not even going hard today. So everyone's got a different theory on what hard training is, but, you know, I always grew up training hard because I enjoyed it, and then when I trained with Tom Platz, that was a whole different hardness altogether and a whole different intensity level altogether, training with Tom Platz. So I think today people just, I don't know, they say they train hard, but it's hard to train, you know, it's hard to do dumbbell curls or barbell curls or squat when you got your fucking phone in your hand taking selfies. So it's just not the same as it used to be. You know, we'd go into the gym and bust our ass. Now they go into the gym, talk, get on the phone, check their status while they're on the phone, do a little bit here, walk around. Oh, they got to pick the right fucking song to listen to, so you see them flicking through their fucking playlist to get the right motivation to fucking lift weights. It's like, get the fuck out. Half the dickheads that are in gyms now would have been dragged out in the 80s and fucking had their heads belted in outside the gym the way they fucking carry on. It's like, fuck. It's like there's so many prima donnas down there. They already come into the gym with their weightlifting belts on, or they've got their little fucking stringy tank tops on as soon as they fucking walk in looking like shit. Looks like they just came out of 12 rounds of fucking chemotherapy with their fucking tank tops on into the gym. It's like, fucking cover up. And then they come into the gym when I'm training and turn the fans off because the little prima donnas are cold because the wind's blowing on, the fan's too cold. Was put a fucking t-shirt on so I don't have to look at your fucking acne covered back and no muscle. So they just don't, like I said, they don't train hard because they're scared of it. And if their idea of training hard isn't hard, or then you get the ones that say, well, I don't want to train too hard, I don't want to get too big, I could get big if I wanted, and then it comes down to the drug talk and all this other shit. And that's another thing when people say, well, you take drugs, you don't have to train as hard. I'm like, fuck off, you have to train just as hard, if not harder, when you're on gear. My training never changed being on or off, so the whole, well, you don't have to train as hard because you're using gear is a whole lot of bullshit. So I don't know, but I just think people these days just get lazier and they just don't know what really hard training is. It's like I said, go to hook up with someone like Platts or those guys from the old days where you'd see him go to failure. Platts were like, when I trained with Tom, he went to failure and beyond failure. He'd keep going till, like I said, he would go down to look like he was doing a partial rep. He'd just keep, until the muscle couldn't move. I mean, he might have been doing laterals like this, all the way out to the side, and then he'd be going hit, and then it's all the way hit, and it's hit. So it's like he's just doing even a quarter of a rep, but he'd go to complete failure. So when you see people train like that compared to people who train now, like I said, it seems now they get a little bit of a pump happening and then they stop. They feel a little bit of burn coming on. Oh, that's uncomfortable. I've got to stop now. So they don't push past that pain. And like I said, if you've been doing it for years and years, you probably did it too, Dave, where you just sort of switch off the pain. Yes, it hurts, but it's not going to kill you. It's going to hurt like hell. But then you get to a point where you can even turn that pain off and just sort of, you go into this zone where you're not even thinking about anything. It's almost like a machine just doing the reps up and down or pushing it up and down. So I don't know, but today, like I said, more kids are too busy on the gear, looking at themselves in the mirror, taking selfies to worry about training. So they've got to make sure they're more worried about if their fucking tank top matches their shoes these days, the new Nikes or Reeboks.
I am agreeing with you 100%. My theory is, I have two theories. One is that they're too distracted in the gym, and I think that you pointed that out perfectly with the cell phones. We didn't have cell phones that did that, back in the day. You weren't taking pictures. You were in the gym to train. It was like a holy moment. There was no distractions, and that's what you did. And I think that there is too many distractions now in the gym. That's one thing. The second thing is, back in the day, it seemed like there were more training partner, things going on. Gold's Gym, people would move to Venice to train so they could be with the other pros and push each other. And it was like a competition. So it was like almost stressful to go to the gym every day because you knew you had to try to beat out Flex and Rico and this one and that one. It was like, if you didn't put out 100% effort, they were going to call you a pussy and kick you out of the gym.
I remember the first time I went to Gold's Gym, and when I met Kurt Miller, he went to introduce me to Mike Quinn, and that I'd probably been there a week from Australia, so nobody knew me. Mike Quinn and Billy, who used to train me from the Gladiators, and other people wouldn't even give me the time of day. I mean, I think, that's sort of rude. These people I looked up to in the magazines, but then a week later, I was doing the 180-pound dumbbells, the incline dumbbell presses, and they sort of come over and had a look, like, oh, you're strong. So from that point on, they started talking to me. It's almost like you had to earn their respect. Right. They had to sort of see that you trained hard. And I used to train with some guys where after a month or two, we'd have to have a break from each other because my friend Andy in Australia, who was a trainer with here, was like, we just go full on day in, day out. And like I said, if I squatted 5 plates, he'd go 5.5. So I'm like, well, fuck this, I'll go 6 plates. It was like every day was a fucking contest. So after 3 months, we're like, oh shit, we're going to have a break because we're just burning ourselves out, just training so hard, killing ourselves that the body was just breaking down. But like I said, today, there's so many distractions going on in the gyms with the phones, people talking. I said, even the music. I said, that's why I love training at World Gym with Joe Gold there. It's like, if you made a noise, he'd kick you out. There was no music in that gym. It was just nice and quiet. You'd hear the old metal weights clanging every now and then, but if you're clanging them too hard, he'd kick you out. So I just like that whole atmosphere, World Gym was good like that. But then you go to Gold's Gym and train, and if there was a song on the radio and the person behind the counter didn't like that song, they'd change the song. So the music kept changing every 10 seconds. Yeah, and even now, like I said, we had headphones back in the day when you had your little Walkman. It's like, wow, I've got a Walkman now. It was great. You had these tiny little earphones like this. But now people are going in the gym, they've got these headphones. It looks like they've got fucking earmuffs on, like they're going out in the snow. It's like their devices are getting smaller, but the headphones are getting bigger. Oh, I've got to have my new fucking Dr. Dre Beats on to look like a dipshit in the fucking gym. Fucking hell. Oh, let's put all these new headphones. Oh, yeah, whatever.
But, I mean,
Lee, just train, for God's sake.
In reality, Lee, think about it. When I had to do 6 plates on each side, almost 600 pounds on the squat bar, I wasn't worried about taking pictures. I didn't want anyone near me. It was like a holy moment that I had to like completely focus on what I was going to do, think about it, because it was a very stressful type of situation to put yourself in. You wrapped your knees, you put your belt on, you walked up to the thing, you wanted to really focus on what you were doing and pay attention because it's a dangerous lift. And you knew that every rep you got out of that 600 was going to make your legs grow that much bigger. So it was important. I don't think people have the focus or the...
No. I remember, like I said, the main thing was focus. I remember before the 97 Olympia, Arnold was at Gold's gym. Steve, that did the T-shirts for him, was there. Joe Gold was hanging out the office window, and I had the 3 plates and a 5 on the bar to curl out on the balcony there, and I was just focusing on it. They're just standing around watching me. I'm wrapping my hands on the bar so I don't drop it, thinking, 3 plates, with this body weight. And just when I went to lift it, Eddie taps her on the shoulder and goes, Lee, don't tear your bicep now. I'm like, you fucking I said I wasn't even thinking about that, but now I've got this vision of my bicep ripping off the bone. I had to unwrap from the bar, stand there and gather my thoughts again for 10 minutes before I went again. But yeah, just was about to lift it. And then another time there's some tourists come in. I was with my friend Mark Michael at work behind the counter. I was squatting 7 plates on an old squat rack against the wall inside. And just when I was going down, this Japanese tourist stood in front of me, took a photo, and the flash goes, boom! I'm like, fucking hell. Fucking hell, I just sort of smiled. I think you can't be mad at tourists, otherwise they'll probably go away and call me a cunt, which, they do anyway, but, I didn't want to give them the reson to. Yeah, so like I said, we just always focused back then. If we went to lift the weight, in between sets, sure, we'd have a joke around every now and then and have a bit of a chat. But, when you went to do your set, that's all you thought about was just lifting that weight, and your training partner there was there to help you and push you and get you through it. When you couldn't do any more, I know many times I was squatting with Tom, and we'd go 5 plates on the squat rack, and on the last set he's like, do 20 reps. I'll be up to 12, like I can't do any more, get to 20 and go throw up in the garbage bin. So, that's how we used to train back then. But now, like I said, people are more worried about their playlist on their fucking phone and their photos for Instagram. And I always laugh because I see so many guys in the gym who will come in with their tank tops on, do a little bit of a workout, train, take some photos, and then when I look at their Facebook page or Instagram page and it pops up, it says, doing chest, killing it. I'm like, I feel like writing, I saw you in the gym today, mate. You just fucking kill nothing. Yeah. The only thing you probably killed is the ant you fucking walked on walking into the gym. But, as far as training goes, fucking hell. So.
John Romano, we're joined by right now. And, John, we're talking about why people don't train as hard today. And we're not talking about everyone. We're talking about the majority of people as they did back in the 80s and 90s. And Lee and I brought up the fact that there's too many distractions, number one, in the gym now. But also, guys would move to like one area, like Venice Goals, to train against each other, to push each other. You don't see that anymore. What's your why do you think people do not train as hard today as they did years ago? Because you just don't see the same level of competition in the gym.
I want to back up and say that I was in the gym that day when I thought it was Eddie Giuliani told you not to tear your bicep.
Yeah, it was. It was Eddie. Eddie walked over and tapped me and goes, don't tear your bicep.
Yeah, it was. I was there. You didn't know me, but I was nobody then, so I'm still nobody.
Oh, you're that guy. You're that guy who used to say, "Who's that fucking gay guy staring at me over there in the corner?"
He was the Japanese tourist taking pictures of you.
Yeah. At least I wasn't taking flash photos into the mirror. Thank me for that. That's an interesting question because back in the day, I remember. First training at Gold's Gym when it was in Santa Monica on 2nd Street. And, there was 3 Mr. Olympias in there, and several Mr. Universes, Mr. Americas in a tiny little room, And then when the gym moved to where it is now on Hampton, and then World Gym popped up. I mean, everybody from every corner of the globe made the trek out there, the pilgrimage to Mecca, so to speak, to train at these 2 gyms. And it was just such. There was an air. Lift heavy. You had to look good, stay on your diet, make sure you wore the right clothes. Guys would walk in there with 17 sweatshirts on just to make themselves look good.
Hey, stop talking about Mike Yablon.
Yeah, Mike Yablon, yeah.
There was more than one guy that did that, Or the guy from out of town that thinks he's all big, and peels off and he's got a tank top on and he's doing this all the time.
And they hop on the scale to weigh himself with their bum bag on, with their protein drink inside the bum bag.
You got to have a pretty high level of confidence to take your shirt off at Gold's Gym Venice when you got guys like Flex Wheeler walking around, Mike Monterazzo, Chris Cormier. I mean, you got to be the Barbarian Brothers. You got to be nuts to do that, to think that you look good.
That's the sad thing they did. It's like, how many times would you go to the Mr. Olympia where you got the best of the best in the world, walk into the expo and look at all the wanks walking around flared out, lats flared out with the tank tops on, a little bit of oil on. They come to take a photo and they think they're going to try and crush your hand. They're taking a photo and they're like this. They're shaking so bad because they're so tensed up. And they go look at the photo of the girlfriend too, and they go, take another one. I guess they weren't on the right fucking angle. So.
or I would love hearing guys in the gym saying, yeah, I'm getting ready for the Arnold. What do you mean you're getting ready for the Arnold? You know, you're competing? No, I'm just getting ready to go to the expo. They're dieting, they're tanning, they're up in their juice.
That's so when they post their photo on their post their photo on their page and all their mates say, oh, fuck yeah, you're almost as big as him. You know, there'll be a picture of a guy shaking Phil Heath's hand, their buddy saying, oh, you're almost his size, you're almost his size. It's like, oh, God. Oh, yeah, it's like, you look just like him. You got 2 arms and 2 legs. That's about the only comparison.
What I used to love about going to the expos is when you'd see these guys who would act, some of them would actually come out of hiding, you know, from getbig.com or, you know, one of the other boards, and they would actually say who they are. And then you look at them and they're like 135 pounds soaking wet, you know, and they go, oh, I just trained for fitness. Yeah, but online you're like, you know, squatting 700, you know.
Let's go back to the original question, John. Why did guys train harder years ago? What changed?
Because they didn't know. So Arnold trained 6-8 hours a day, so they figured everybody had to train 6-8 hours a day, 6 or 8 hours. You know, bodybuilders back then were bodybuilders. They got up in the morning and they were bodybuilders. They went and ate and then went to the gym. They spent the whole day at the gym, and then they went to the beach and slept in the sun and got tan, and then went back to the gym and trained some more. It was a complete, all-consuming lifestyle back then. And back then you really needed very little money to live. You know, a lot of guys bounced, you know, at night to pay the bills. There was some, you know, gay for pay shit going on back then. There were, you know, guys hustled, and big bodybuilders were a relative novelty. There weren't too many of them, so there was a lot of. They got a lot of movie work and, you know, extra work and stuff, you know, in LA, but it was more of a committed lifestyle. Today, it's. I don't think they're training more to be who they are, who they are as a bodybuilder rather than what they can be. Back then, it was unknown. You didn't know how big you could be. You didn't know how amazing it could get. The bar was always there to get raised, and guys were willing to do it. And I think today it's everybody knows everything. So
yeah, but John, you know what? Back in the 90s when I was training, and I'd go to the gym, and I didn't live in Venice, but you know I loved going out there to visit. But when I would train, I had a group of guys that pushed me out of my comfort zone every single workout. I loved the after effects, but I almost was like the whole day I was thinking about it because I know, oh man, I got to do chest, I got to do legs. I knew it was going to be a very painful and comfortable experience, but I also knew it was going to lead to more growth and to make my body that much better. Nowadays, guys, like, they casually, I'm going to the gym. I don't even think they think about it most of the time. They just go there, they go through the motions, they take their selfies, you know, they log into Instagram, make sure they put a few posts up for their social media fans, they do a little Instagram live, and they go home. And I just don't, is it the distraction? Is it the fact that there's not a group of people that are training together and pushing each other? What is it? There's got to be something tangible.
I think too, like I said, even when the drugs started coming in, because I know when I started off training, even when I got to the States, all the pros I spoke to, we never discussed drugs. It was always about hard training and the eating side and pushing your body. Whereas now, all kids talk about is drugs. To get that big, you've got to be taking these drugs. It's like, yes, when I started off, I knew drugs were in the sport, but that was like the last thing anyone ever spoke about. It was always, fuck, what are you going to eat now? And you're going to eat after the gym. We go down to the Marina Pacific Hotel. There'd be Gary Stride, and then everyone's eating steak and rice and eggs for breakfast. And later on, we'll go train, then we'll go to the firehouse. They've eaten half the chicken or a whole chicken and rice and all this sort of stuff. So it was more about the food and the training. It's like I said, we knew drugs were in it, but, you know, we never spoke about it. It wasn't a thing. But now, that's all they talk about. Look at message boards. Look at this. Look at that. If there's a big guy on there, the first comment someone says, he must be taking a lot of shit. It's like, just as I said, there's so much emphasis put on the drugs and not the hard training, because I've said to a lot of people before, if you have great genetics and you train properly, eat correctly, get the resting that you need, you can build a good physique before you even touch a drug. But sadly now, no one tries that. They want to be on drugs before they even step foot in the gym. So no one does that heavy foundation work anymore to see how far they can take their body naturally before they try and experiment with drugs. So they just get lazier. And I remember when I used to do all the cardio, get ready for the gym, even Dillette, I'd laugh at Paul. I'd come home early in the morning, he'd just be getting up. He goes, "Oh, where you been, son?" I said, "Cardio." "Are you going to do some cardio today, Dad?" Because I call him Dad, he called me son. He goes, "Oh, nah, I just take some more clean." It's like, it's like, those sort of things. Those sort of things work to a degree, but nothing's ever going to beat hard work when it comes to cardio training. Nothing's ever going to outdo that. Yes, drugs will help a little bit, and even fat burning drugs. I'd have some guys say, "I don't do cardio, I just take more GH." It's like, okay, like I said, it's going to help to a degree, but nothing's ever going to beat hard work. And you can see the guys that have done that hard work. You look at the physique, Dorian and all those guys, the ones that busted their ass. They had that granite hard muscle look. And to me too, when I look back at the old days. Okay, you have Branch Warren there, who's a freaky physique, and people like that. But you look at someone like even Serge Dubray, Bird or Fox, the muscle density those guys had and the thickness of the muscle, that rivals anybody today. When you look at Bird or Fox, Nimrod King, all those guys that trained hard, Sergio Oliva, that dense quality muscle that can't be built by drugs at all. It's mainly the training, the eating, and all that sort of stuff. You don't see that sort of thickness on guys today. Yes, there are some freaky guys like Rami, but to me, I look at Rami, and if I look at Bird or Fox at his best, Bird or Fox muscle density or Victor Richards is just incredible compared to those guys now. So, like I said, bodybuilding, yes, it might be moving forward in people looking freakier, but when you look at, top quality muscle, the guys back then seemed to have better thickness quality muscle. And when those guys were off season, they still had that thick quality muscle. They just didn't sort of deplete and go up and get puffy and smooth and that sort of stuff. So, I think hard training says a lot.
Lee makes a good point there. I think to answer that question, that's the nail pretty much being hit on the head. Today it's drugs. I mean, everybody wants to know, what is he taking? What's he on? What are you using? And that's true. Back in the day, we never talked about drugs, and if we did, it was like an afterthought. There was, and certainly we weren't doing, or anybody wasn't doing the amounts that they're doing today. So, if that whole thing with Dallas McCarver was only half true, that was probably more drugs than all of World Gym did in a month.
But you know what, John? I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you my take at least, because Lee. And I believe Lee 100% because he doesn't lie about anything. I don't think Lee took a lot of drugs when you compare it to some of the other guys in the 90s. We figured out in the 90s what was the threshold amount of drugs that we felt was needed. We wouldn't go over certain amounts. Like we wouldn't go over 1,000 milligrams of testosterone. You never take more than 50 milligrams of Anadrol. You wouldn't take more than 100 milligrams of equipoise 3 times, every other day. So there were certain boundaries we knew, and then so we knew that the drugs were bounded and leveled off. No one did more than this because that's the right way to do it. And the rest was, well, how can we figure out how to grow now? Now, once we're taking the threshold amount of drugs that everyone considered was what you wanted to do, 2 to 4 IUs of GH if you could afford it, the testosterone, the anabolics. Now you have to figure out how to grow. That's called eating, like he said. I mean, I never ate. I couldn't believe when I would go to that Marina Pacific hotel. It had this small room, and everyone was there in breakfast. I went down to get breakfast, and I saw every major. If I had a video camera back then and did interviews with everyone who walked into that little cafe for breakfast for $3 or $4, you could eat like a king. The 18 platters of food you'd have in front of you. It was unbelievable. And the bottom line was we trained back then because we said, all right, now we're on the right drugs. We're eating the right food. Now we got to make all this stuff work. Because if you don't train hard, all that food and drugs is not going to do anything. So we wanted to see how much intensity we could generate in the gym, how heavy you can lift, how much you could push so that you can maximize your muscle gains. Because the only variable that you couldn't control would be the gym, So if you were injured one day, you'd feel like you want to blow your brains out because you knew you weren't going to grow that day. You didn't think, well, the drugs are going to build muscle anyway, because they don't. They're just a stimulus. And I think that today it's the opposite. People think, all right, well, I'm eating, okay, I don't want to eat too much. I don't want to be bloated. I'm working out all right. I'm going to the gym and doing my workouts. Now I have to figure out how much drugs I have to take to get the size I want. And it just doesn't work that way.
What about when you see some of those videos of guys, like even the one Boston put up, I have all these shots before I go to the gym, inject these muscle groups and then go train. Then after training, inject these muscle groups again. I'm like, what the fuck's that? Well, I fucking injecting the muscle group as a shot in the ass every Friday. I could have, that was it. put a shot of Deca or something in my ass Friday night. That was it, once a week. But yeah, when you see people doing that now, it's just crazy. And just like I said, the intensity, the hard training, it's just like I said, the whole aspect has changed. As I said, go on a forum now and see how many people are actually talking about hard training. Every topic's drugs this, drugs that, and it's just, like I said, it's just a shame it's come to that. But
well, I think that today there's no respect for the drugs. There's no fear. Back then, I think we feared these drugs, and we didn't know a lot about them. And like we've been saying, they were not the prime directive. The hard training, all the magazines of the day, from Body Power and whatever Joe's first magazines were called, it was all about training. There was anything else but training and eating, and some supplements. But the focus back then in all the magazines was training. That was the focus of the bodybuilding media, was training. And then drugs were the thing that we didn't know very much about. Dan Duchesne hadn't made those big inroads yet. There were a lot of guys that were getting news from Europe and Western Eastern countries, what those guys were doing. And I think there was a lot of apprehension, fear, respect, or whatever you want to call it, for the drugs back then. And you're right, Dave, we did have limits. It was never more than a gram a test a week. We had limits on what we would take. Today, these guys look at these morons on the internet and, filling up a pin and jamming it in their pec with 5 cc's or whatever, and making a joke out of how much gear they can shoot into their body. And I think that whole idea that they still have disrespected the power and the availability and the use of drugs, and have made them comical to some degree, as the reason why these guys don't think they need to train. They think they can just ramp up the drugs and they're going to get bigger. And
if you had to break it down by the decade, I would say the 70s were like the Dianabol era. That was the big drug. The 80s were like your Deca, Durabol, and your Primobolan era. The 90s was GH. Everything was GH because that's when it first came out. Everyone was talking, GH is the next big thing. Then you had your 2000s. Into the 2000s, it was kind of like insulin and IGF.
Phenojet. Don't forget Phenojet.
Yeah. I'm still stuck in the 80s then, because I still see
yes, exactly. Now it's all peptides and stuff like that. But right. Everyone's always looking for the next big thing. But the funny thing is that the 70s era probably had it right. If it would have stopped at Dianabol, you probably have better physiques today than you have out there. Because with the addition with training advances and supplement advances, just combined with regular anabolics. Think about this. Here's a good question. We'll end the show on this question. I'll give it to John and to Lee. If there was only Dianabol, testosterone, and Winstrol, and there was no other drugs, okay, what would the bodybuilders of today look? What would Mr. Olympia look like today, Lee?
Lee Priest. I think they'd still look just as good, because, like I said, hey, that's not that funny, John. Come on.
It was actually.
It was funny.
Would have been funny. Would have been funny if I said Louis Marco.
He's a natty.
He's got to get upset.
He's a board short guy.
He's going to block me now because I just said that. Now, but the thing is, like I was saying before, when you look back at the physiques, look through those old books of Arnold, Sergio, Bertil Fox, Jeff King, all these people. I said, the guys today do have big muscles, yes, but when you're talking thick, dense, quality muscle, none of today's bodybuilders really rival what those guys had back then. And like I said, they were on the basic drugs, just eating like horses and busting their ass in the gym. And nothing's ever going to replace hard work and training like that. And I said, I look back at some old books now, in Arnold's first encyclopedia of bodybuilding, or there's a book by Tom Platz that Robert Kennedy did, Pro-Style Bodybuilding, and those type of books. When you look back in those books and see the quality and density that those guys had in their muscles, I said, the guys today, yes, they're big, but they still don't, match up to any of that thickness and quality muscle those guys had. So, they can take all the drugs they want now, all these special designer drugs and everything else, but they're not looking any better. Yes, some might look a bit freaky and stuff like that, but I'd take any of those lineups back then and give them. Look at someone like Serge Gray. The guy wasn't massive, but look at the quality of muscle, his pecs and his arms and his skin. They just look healthy as well. You look at some of the guys today, you see them, they look like they're fucking sick or dying, or they look like, you see some of these pro bodybuilders in their 30s look like they're in their 60s. Whereas the guys back then, yes, like even the Bob Harrises and, Barry DeMays, they were good-looking guys, but yet they still looked healthy. Whereas today, a lot of bodybuilders just don't look healthy. They look like they're ready to keel over and die. So they're doing something wrong, and we've seen now all the amount of drugs people take. I don't see why they can't learn that we're abusing all these drugs, but yet no one's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's not the drugs. It's time to revert back. I've always said, the wheel's not broken. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just stick to what worked back then.
Right. You're right. Well, the question is, why is the training not as important today? And it seems like the conclusion we came to is that there are too many distractions in the gym. Cell phones, selfies, social media, and obsession with drugs. And
I actually think the real question is, what if the hokey pokey is really what it's all about?
That's what it's all about. You're right. That's what it's all about.
Speaking of that, I think one of the greatest telltale signs of how perverted this drug issue has gotten is just go backstage at the Nationals or the Junior USA or any of the big, big regional show and look at the board short guys. 9 out of 10 of them have gyno. Okay, so it's a division where they shouldn't even be using any drugs. Not in Olympia, all right? But 9 out of 10 of them have gyno. So right there, that should tell you that the mentality is geared towards what they take, not what they do.
Well, it's a good point, John, you make, and that's another show we can cover. But a lot of people think that, and I'm not going to mention this guy's name again, but a lot of people think that classic physique is going to save bodybuilding because this person thinks that the classic guys won't use as many drugs. I got news for you. The men's physique guys use more drugs than the bodybuilders of the 90s did.
Yeah.
Now, people might not find this popular, but men's physique, a lot of them are just guys who wanted to be big, freaky bodybuilders and couldn't. They're taking just the amount of drugs. They couldn't get big and freaky to compete in the pros in the open bodybuilding. So they think, well, fuck, I've got to do men's physique or classic physique because they don't believe this shit that they're not taking any less drugs than the other guys. The thing is, they are taking as much drugs, but that's as much as they can develop. So they've got to do that class. So it's like we're making classes for people who can't become true bodybuilders now. So suck on that, people.
And on that note, that's going to take us to the end of another episode of Iron Rage.
Long live Louis Marco. Long live Louis.
I'm Dave Palumbo with John Romano and Lee Priest. We'll see you next week.